My name is Carsten Kümmel. I'm a live sound engineer since more than 20 years. I'm specialized on orchestral productions, film music, operas, musicals, so mostly shows which are getting real complex. The most interesting shows I had in the last time, when I look back, of course, to 2019 and not to 2020, was the World of Hans Zimmer, what I'm mixing in 18 and 19. Huge show with fully symphonic orchestra and a huge band and choir and the music of Hans, which is really amazing. Besides that, I'm mixing the BBC live in concert series since 5 years meanwhile. And another highlight I had last year, that was a very special one. It was the concert of Anne-Sophie Mutter in Munich on the Königsplatz. She is, for me, the best violin player on the world. And just to work with her was really mind-blasting. Not only with her, besides that, we had the Royal Symphonic Orchestra and conducted by David Newman, and they played the music of John Williams, which John Williams directly arranged for her. So that was really unique. So yeah, I do a lot of orchestra work. The orchestra is really special. What makes them special? It is the motivation of this orchestra. It's a pretty young orchestra, and really 100% of the people inside the orchestra, they want to create music and they want to transport and they want to reach people. That's not the case in all orchestras, but with this one, it's a real pleasure to work with them. The conductor, Nicholas Milton, and we worked several times, of course, in the concerts together. In the time when we had these live sound situations, we created a trust between each other. So it is now the first time that we have a recording together, which is another totally different situation. The connection between the conductor and the sound engineer, it has to be strong in both ways, even in amplification as well in the recording process. The way to reach it is not even different. How do you create trust? Let the work be the work. Very important in the beginning is how you treat the people and how they treat you. It is so important that you go out of the control room or you enter the stage, give a smile to the people. Say hello, good morning, how are you? Show respect. Yeah? That's the very first step. And it sounds very simple, but this, if you do that, is already 50% of your work. It's the same if you have a concert with a live sound or if you record a production. Absolutely the same. The difference in my role is that here, in that situation, I can form much more the music. Nicholas, his mind is looking forward. He will create the music. My mind, I'm reading the scores and my mind is like, does it work what is happening right now? So in the timeline, I'm a little bit behind him. And this combination has to work and to sort out if that what he's thinking is right or not. And then, of course, on a very careful way, and therefore you need the trust, talk with him. And there are, these very difficult situations when one measure on the first time does not work, second time does not work, third, so on and so on. And after a couple of times, of course, the musicians know when there is a mistake. And just not to point the finger on it and just to do it politically correct and to get this measure working. This is a good combination with the conductor and the Tonmeister. I'm used to work with the Avid, with the S.E.A. It's a live console we have here. But it's my first choice console when, for example, working with BBC. I have it with me all the time. And I'm recording on Pro Tools. And this console has a perfect implementation of Pro Tools. And I can just deliver all the track names from the console to Pro Tools. I can start Pro Tools with it, and that's, for this situation, perfect. The question is, why do I have a mixing console here? Only DAW would do it as well. That's true, I could work with only a DAW, but the console makes me faster. That's what it is about. Imagine yesterday I only had 3-4 hours of setting up everything, microphones, control room. I like the way just to having real faders in my hand. And for example, like we have a communication line with a video, with the conductor, me, lightning. Just to handle that with real faders, you're simply much faster than to arrange that with a whole DAW, where you have to change it when you come from one project to the other. If I have the choice, I use a mixing console, a real faders, just to be faster. An Avid gives me the possibility of having my VCA hierarchy. I just like an all VCA which divides then in strings, then in French horns, woodwinds, brass, and the strings VCA goes smaller, like in first, seconds, violas, cello, basses. So I don't have to change a single layer with the VCA flip mode of the Avid. The second thing is I have a very good overview of everything what's going on. I see with one view on the console, I see that all my signals are fine, or if they are simply too high or too low, and I can correct that. The third part is the really warm sound the preamplifiers give me. They're really, really good and I like them. And they're, when you think, oh, it's only for a live sound, no, they're absolutely suitable for really this sensible recording here as well. And that's why Avid, no question about that. Welcome in the control room here. It's on the venue next door to the orchestra. Here I have the lovely S6L. I was able to program the whole console offline at home and just here insert a USB stick, and then this is done. Imagine, I just came here yesterday in the morning, started to set it up, and we only had a couple of hours to set the whole thing up. And it's about being fast and as well doing the sound check. I'm simply faster when I have a real console, besides then when I work with only a DAW. The problem with a DAW is when you change from one project to the other, so which means in the Dvořák from the first movement to the second movement, then there are these small moments when you cannot communicate with the conductor, but be sure, exactly when you switch from one project to the other, that's the moment when the conductor wants to reach out to you. With the console, I easily can set up. I'm used to work with a VCA hierarchy. As you see here, at my top VCA, I have the VCA all, and it's on the first layer of the console. More or less, I don't work with layers. So it's like a pyramid. It's on the top, I have the all VCA. Below that, I have the VCAs for the strings, for the woodwinds, for the brass and the French horns and the percussion and the effects. And then, for example, let's go a level more down. The next level is the string VCA divides into the first violins, second violins, violas, cello and the double basses. And that's how I arrange always my project. Here, with only 60 inputs, it's not so much. But when I work with BBC or Hans, it's easily that we have up to 200 channels, and this you have to organize. And with such a VCA hierarchy, it's possible to be organized and to work alone as a mixer. I just go here, I double click inside the VCAs and they spill out, and I have everything in excess and without changing a single layer. What I really love about the S6L, what is exactly my way of working, it's not working in layers, because with layers you always pull down to that what fits on the console, on the specific layer on the left or on the right side. Here you can open the VCAs. For example, like here, let me open the VCA, the first strings, make a double click, and they pop up on the left side of the console. And that makes your work so organized, and I don't have to think of how many channels are in that VCA or how much of these channels fit in a bank of a console. And as soon as a console supplies that, you are so much more organized, and all inputs I have, I can reach out by just double-clicking these VCAs. So even when I go up to 150 channels, I don't have to change layers, and that's keeping organized. Inside I have the built-in wave rig here just to give a little bit reverberation. I have 3 reverberation on it, for as well creating deepness in sound. The first zone are the strings, which are supposed to be in the front to the listener because they are closer to the listener. The second one are the woodwinds and the trumpets, and the third zone are the percussions, the French horns, trombones and tuba. Besides that, I can remote control Pro Tools here. From that section on, I can play it back, and as well Pro Tools immediately takes over the names. And the other reason I have chosen that console are, of course, the preamplifiers. They are fabulous. That's it. They are warm sounding, exactly that what I need for an orchestra. I don't need a bright, aggressive rock and roll sound. I'm looking for a really warm sound with orchestras. And this one gives it to me. The room, more or less, it does not sound too bad. It's not a concert hall, also a classical concert hall. It's a concert hall for rock and pop music. So I have to add reverberation on it, that's for sure. The way of setting up the microphones due to the room is pretty similar as if we are in a concert hall. So I have a main microphone system, which I'm using. As well, I have a 3D stereo system, which I'm checking out. What makes the treatment special is the distance of the musicians to each other. Therefore, I had to change my way of setting up microphones. Due to the corona, we have to have, 1.5 or 2 meters between the musicians. First of all, I try to use the same microphones within one group. Not to change it, to get the same character of the sound. Therefore, for example, in the strings I have a bunch of KM184 Neumann microphones, which is one of the best price to efficiency microphones you can get. Then I have a lot of S.E.A electronics microphones inside the orchestra. There as well, what for me is extremely important is the quality of a microphone due to lateral sound. A sound from 0 degrees, every microphone is good at that, because that you can tweak very easy. But as soon as the sound comes from the side, that divides the good ones from the bad ones. And there is S.E.A electronics, like Neumann, a very good brand in that. And so due to that, I have a lot of T2 from S.E.A electronics, especially on my main microphone setup, where in the 3D is set up because they are switchable. I use a lot of figure of 8s here as well. And as well, if you go to the brass section, they have ribbon microphones a lot. They're a little bit more flat in the high frequencies, which helps me in the deepness of the sound and as well to the character of brass players and French horns. Let's have a look here to the orchestra setup or to the microphone setup, and in that venue, as you see, we have plenty of lights here as well. It's due to the fact that it's not only an audio recording, it's as well a video recording. And let me explain you some microphones here. Let's start with the main microphone system. It's more or less the really main microphone system for the stereo purpose are the KM183 AB system. And it's set up in that distance that from the most outer music instrument I have a time difference of 1.5 milliseconds between the microphones, which spreads it in a very good AB system, which is very wide, but I still have a localization. I have 2 other systems. It's here in the middle in the same height. You have the 3D ORTF system with 8 microphones, 8 here hypercardioids. It should be supercardioids, but I have hypercardioids, will work as well. And as well the ambisonics, which are 3 figure of 8s and 1 omnidirectionals. It's a tool and to learn and to just get to new ideas in terms of 3D audio. So the really important are the ABs, and these other 2s are my experimental stuff and toys. Yeah. Okay, let's go inside the orchestra. Let's start with the first violins. First of all, we must not touch any chairs or music stands due to the virus, otherwise we would have to disinfect everything again. So I try to walk between it, between all the chairs without touching anything. You see how much larger the orchestra now approximately needs 3 or 4 times the space it usually needs. And how does that adapt to my microphone setup? Let's see here. First violin, first music desk is pointing downwards between the players. And this is what I meant with lateral sound. The sound is always coming from the side. When the orchestra would be seated normally, I would use one microphone for the second row and the first row together, just by giving the microphone an angle, pointing with a 0-degree line in the second row, which means the first row is closer, but it plays in the -6 dB area of the microphone. The cardioid microphone has -6 dB for sound which is coming from 90 degrees. And it's pointing, the 0 degrees are pointing to the second row. That means they have the double distance. They play to the -6 dB. That means that all these 4 instruments have the same loudness on the microphone, the same level. But they give me a much better blending of 4 players into one microphone. And that's what I want to achieve. I want to achieve not single players, I want to achieve a string group. And that's I'm looking for a good blending of the sound. Not possible here. I have to use one microphone per stand. And of course that increases the channel count as well. Let's go a little bit deeper in the orchestra. It is here in the second violin, absolutely the same. One microphone per desk. Here are the first players. They're spread on a big area. Wireless, cello, everywhere the same. Yeah, so that repeats. Let's go a little bit deeper. Here we come. French horns, woodwinds and the brass section on that side. You see the distance immediately increased. But that's, of course, they work with their breath. And the danger of a virus flying around is much more dangerous from the woodwind players and all the woodwind, brass and French horn players than compared to the string players. They can wear masks, they must not wear masks. That's why the area is even bigger. But the same situation here, one microphone per 2 players, but the distance is pretty large to the instruments. That's why I can achieve that I get 2 instruments with one microphone. Again, the same, the blending is better than if I would use one microphone per player. And that's what I want to achieve, blending of the sound, having the woodwinds as a group. Here I'm using the RN17 from S.E.A Electronics, a little bit less high frequencies and really very good in lateral sound. So let's come to the French horns. Same, one microphone, 2 players. Here it's a ribbon microphone, the VR2 from S.E.A Electronics. So here on the brass players we have here 3 trombones and 1 tuba player. Again ribbon microphones, and these ribbon microphones, they are quite funny. They are coming from Russia and I found them on eBay. And they don't have a name, not even a brand name. But I measured them and they're extraordinary good. And I love to have them on trombones and as well here on the trumpet. No name, no nothing, but a very good service, and every single microphone comes with a polar pattern and with a frequency response for each microphone. And I think this comes just from a water tube or something. They're really, really good. They're not cost intensive, very cheap. Let's have a look at the timpani. As well here, again, this timpani is not played on the Dvořák, that's why this microphone is above only that one. They're pretty high above the timpani. And a timpani, that's one of the instruments where I always have an ear due to the height. Because the timpani changes its sounds very fast due to the height. What do I want to achieve? I want to have a very bright sound from the timpani. You can think of, oh, it's a very low instrument. Yeah, but the low frequencies that you have from the timpani, you have it in all the other microphones. What I'm looking for is to get a really bright, percussive sound from the timpani. And here, for example, I always speak with the timpani players and about the choice of their mallets. And I always am a little bit more on the hard side of the mallets than on the soft side. All microphones, of course, they go in the Avid stage rack, then via Cat 5, so AVB system, to the console, to the engine. And I'm recording with two computers. One is just connected via AVB, so I can fully control it from the console. And the other one, which is a backup, is connected via MADI. I already mentioned that I don't touch the console during the recording because I want a reference point, and when an instrument is not loud enough or too loud, I go to the conductor, which is the much better way. Because as soon as they play different, it changes the overtones. If I do it with a fader, I don't change the overtones, so that's the difference. On purpose, I have my control room as far away from the orchestra as possible. Just to be able to control the sound which is coming out of the loudspeakers. That's the important point. I'm not mixing for the venue, I'm mixing for loudspeakers or for headphones. And the headphones I'm using, for example, is the Neumann NDH20. They're pretty new to me, but they're really good working tools. It's not a headphone for enjoying music. It's a headphone for work. You can hear so sensible things in that. That's really good, and it's convenient. You can wear it for hours. And as loudspeakers as well, I'm using Dyn Audio R6 loudspeakers. As you see, we're here in Lokhalle in Göttingen. It's a factory more than 100 years ago. Locomotives had been built in here. Maybe you see all the big cranes we have here. The main piece we are playing is Dvořák No. 9 from the New World. When Nicholas Milton came up, we will record Dvořák No. 9. You have to know, in that time when he wrote it, he was in Iowa, in the States. He felt homesick to Böhmen, so he felt lonely. And now we are in the Corona times. The orchestra did not play together for 3 months or 4 months meanwhile. And then we are in that beautiful location of the Lokhalle, and which is not a typical place for an orchestra. And the orchestra not playing such a long time, being separated from all the other musicians, sitting in a concert hall which is not made for orchestral music, and then playing in Corona times that piece which is full of emotions, of homesickness. That's amazing, fits perfect in that time. And you really hear it. The musicians, of course, they know that, and you really hear this sadness about that. And they know next week they are all at home again. This piece here, the Dvořák, is the perfect choice.